I don't even know how to start this video, but just... Wow. Wow, really? I don't know how to transition to the start. I'm going... I had my How to Escape Onryo script all fired up and ready to go, and then the developers nerf the Onryo rework. When I was writing that guide, I knew Onryo had received kind of a large buff to her power. It's possible to rack up Condemned much faster with the 2024 Onryo. But, having said that, both the version 2 Onryo and this third version of Onryo have massive counterplay that makes Condemn irrelevant. They both do. Let me explain. On release, Onryo struggled to accumulate Condemn. When I say on release, I mean the first version of Onryo we ever saw. The common thing was to get some Condemn while playing as a mildly stealthy killer who could teleport around the map. The Condemn would assist by causing a little bit of slowdown in the form of survivors maybe going on one tape run to clear their small amount of Condemn that they get. What eventually surfaced was a particular gen control playstyle featuring slugging, ring drawing, and tape harassment to fast track the weak condemning process, and in the end perform sudden kills. Eerie tape enabled Onryo to keep the TVs powered, thus creating a fast-paced playstyle where survivors were quickly condemned to death. So yeah, there was that. Overall, she was kind of weak, but she had this one playstyle come out. Version 2 Onryo was a response to this playstyle in many ways, but also the overwhelming issue that besides this one playstyle, Onryo was just weak. Ring drawing was toned down, teleports were put on a 10-second cooldown, and condemns would be spread globally across the map on each teleport. She's also got a chase buff to help her shrug off pallets, which was neat, and only slightly addresses Onryo's problem across all three versions. This Onryo played a little bit more hit and run. I saw it as a challenge to see what I could get done in 10 seconds before my next condemn in order to keep the slowdown pressure up, like an injury or a pallet drop, but overall I would be interrupting myself to completely keep going with the stream, the trickle of condemn that you could apply. Now, I'll let one of the developers themselves identify the aims of Onryo's third iteration.
But not too long ago, we updated the Onryo to try to make a couple changes, including condemned and making it more of a threat. Well, let's just say that it's been too much of a threat. There's a very big piece of feedback that we kept getting about this update, which was that it felt like a lot of the skill from playing Onryo was taken out, and now it was just mindlessly teleporting around the map to apply condemned as much as you could and just kill people off. And well, you know, that feedback is not great. So we went back and looked at the Onryo. Also, you know, one thing that I find is a bit difficult to really, or it doesn't sit right with me anyway, is when people start hating a killer, and never want to play against them and would rather DC or kill themselves on the hook. That's never really a good sign.
So what they're doing is they're explaining that Onryo 1 was too weak, but at the same time, there was a strategy that was very problematic. Version 2 Onryo was meant to raise the power of condemning, and also address the slugging and control play style by nerfing eerie tape, ring drawing, and keeping projections on a leash. Now, Jeff mentioned, survivors were disconnecting and killing themselves on a hook in response to the condition of version 2 Onryo. And let's pause here for a moment. Really? Are we serious, survivors? Are we this inept? Oh, don't worry. I'm not going to insult you without receipts. But let's keep going and let's finish getting all caught up before I slap you around in the putrescent waters of enlightenment and understanding. Version 3 Onryo takes away the global entire map condemned. This is the PTB Onryo. Instead, now, condemning when a survivor is within 16 meters of a powered TV. Now, this version also came with a slew of other buffs, but the most notable 4 buffs are that projection cooldown is removed for faster teleporting. Condemned stacks are now back to 1 per successful projection, an increase from the 3/4 stacks that we just had. Tapes no longer protect against future condemned while held. And the version 2 Eerie Tape add-on is back to base kit, making the condemned removal journey for survivors as long as possible. Now there's a lot of other things, like the condemned locking, the tape breaking removed, TV auras, etc., but in my mind, those are all things that are ancillary, in service of the big change from version 2 Onryo to version 3 Onryo. And that is, you can condemn survivors in around 30 seconds. So let's check out this math. All this is going to come down to is the frequency of projections and the amount of condemned applied per projection. Version 2 Onryo, she is allowed to project on a 10-second cooldown, and the projection animation itself has a 2.7-second playtime. Worst case scenario, she's demanifesting in anticipation of her cooldown coming off. So let's do that. The condemned is applied map-wide in 3/4 stacks. We need 10 projections overall to hit to add up to the 7 overall stacks. So if we've got 12.7 second turnaround time that we're working with, and the 10 projections that we want, that is 127 seconds to fully condemn a survivor. This assumes that there's been no tape breaking, no ring drawing work, never missing a chance to project, and no intervention from the survivors to save themselves. Now, version 3 public test build Onryo stacks up much faster. She has the same 2.7 second projection animation, but no cooldown. The only thing stopping her from projecting again is the time it takes to demanifest, which is about 1.5 seconds. When condemned procs near each TV, it applies 1 stack instead of the 3/4 from the previous iteration. So that means we need 7 successful projections, which will only take 29.4 seconds, and that's quick. This again assumes no intervention from the survivors, but you can see the potential is far greater than the previous version of Onryo. If she misses 4 projections due to the range, that's only a mere 47 seconds rounded up. That's very quick. So that's a big deal. And what it was all going to come down to is, after gathering all the info that the public test build provided, how much of the new Onryo was going to get through the PTB and onto live service. So let's read the developer update where they discuss this. Well, firstly, condemned locking is getting capped. Damn you, you cowardly devs! That's come on now. That's a little bit harsh. Projection spamming is being nerfed. One of the awkward playstyles we wanted to address was this update was the dominant strategy of teleporting as much as possible to quickly spread condemned. Yeah, no shit, friendos. I thought that was the whole point of all of these changes. We had hoped that limiting the range of condemned to powered TVs would address this and allow us to remove the projection cooldown. However, some crafty Onryo players discovered that they could intentionally teleport to the wrong TVs first in order to spread more than 1 stack of condemned to survivors near or heading towards a powered one. Clever! Yeah, I thought it was clever. That's how you designed it! What did you expect me to do? Not condemned? That's all I've got. Onryo's terrible at chase. This is like saying, we gave Huntresses 10 hatchets base kit, but we didn't expect Huntresses to use all of them before reloading at a locker. Now we're reducing Huntress hatchets back down to 5. So what's their solution? You can project as much as you like, but it will only apply condemned if you let it cool down for 10 seconds. Just no. Just no. We are back to the 12.7 second projection cooldowns, assuming that we want to condemn each time that we project. We have 1 stack condemns, and we need 7 stacks to get a survivor fully condemned. If we never miss a condemned, that's 88.9 seconds, which is still faster than version 2 Onryo, but it's slower than the PTB, and you're not winning any favors by letting us project faster. But only if we promise not to hurt anybody with our little curse. Now, I've been attempting to hold my negativity about the rationale about these changes to Onryo. The next video was meant to be a guide for survivors to understand the steps that they're meant to take in order to escape Onryo in their trials. But that ends now. Let's bring out the fucking receipts! Survivors, you all performed very badly against Onryo, and I don't know why you're this bad. Because check this out. Version 2 Onryo, if you went to a TV and grabbed a tape, anytime Onryo projected, you were unaffected by her global condemned. Period. 2024 public test build Onryo from the PTB, if you grabbed a tape, the TV next to you that you just turned off is powered off for 70 seconds. Anytime you are within the space of that unpowered TV, and Onryo projects to spread some of that condemned around, you were unaffected, because that TV was off. And after the PTB results are in, we are left with this. If you grab a tape, the TV is powered off for 70 seconds. Anytime you're within the space of that unpowered TV and the Onryo projects to spread some condemned, you are unaffected. Except, Onryos now can't stack up condemned faster even if they wanted to. It's the same shit over and over again. You need tapes and you're not grabbing them. It's been 7 months of this, and none of you are grabbing the tapes you need. You needed it in version 2, you're not doing it. We're on to our second rework of Onryo, version 3, and on the public test build about reworking Onryo, survivors are apparently still not grabbing tapes. Seriously, I can TP to the wrong televisions as much as I like. If you turn them off near the generator you're working on, you're not getting condemned. And this was such a huge fucking problem that survivors couldn't figure this out, that the devs' only solution in their mind was to put a fucking choker collar back onto Onryo. Don't believe me? Let's watch this. Remember the slugging gen control strat that I was talking about earlier at the start of this video? Well, let's watch the architect of that playstyle. Now, this was a live stream between Hens and One Pump Willie, with Otstava casting it. I saw this live initially. Essentially, Ots and Hens were in a period where they were pairing notably strong general public killers against competitive survivors, just to see what would happen. Within the first couple of weeks of version 2 Onryo, Willie faced off against an extremely challenging set of survivors, and it was watched by many. The results? After a few matches, it became clear that not even when Onryo can pick any perk that they like, when the survivors are restricted on their perk selection, no repeats between survivors, that's a comp rule that's normally present in comp games, restricted on survivor items, and put on a very killer-sided map. The truth seemed to be clear. Efficient teams with looping capabilities who grab tapes to make them immune to projection condemned will overrun Onryo with the simple counterplay of locating a tape and abusing Onryo's lack of chase power. This is not a slight against any of the players here. In fact, I want to praise Hens and Ots for arranging this, showing it live, the 3 comp players for taking the time to make such an educational showing, and particularly to One Pump Willie, because while he's very well known for his expertise and mastery of Onryo, getting rocked like this is something which would shake the ego of many players stepping into a comp setting, so there you go. But apparently he's a glutton for punishment, so good on him for all of this.
Oh my frick, man. Oh, I love this. I love this. I love these games. I love these players. They're so good, and these matches are extremely fun.
Now, just because I show a video with a lot of pedigree in it, doesn't mean that my argument is right. And just because I make a fancy video with my voice over it, doesn't make it right. I know there's points, and there's counterpoints, and there's opinions and shit. But can we just recap? Onryo, when released, was quite a weak killer, with the stats that were inflated probably because some survivors would unexpectedly die to condemned. Version 2 Onryo comes out. Her teleporting is captain speed, and the survivors have a counterplay, revolving around grabbing a tape for immunity against global condemned. Across 2 of the biggest Twitch channels, plus the channel of the #1 Onryo player, a showcase match illustrates the immense power of simply grabbing a tape and looping a chase powerless killer for thousands of live viewers across multiple Twitch channels. For 6 months of this version, the devs reveal that not only that they're reworking Onryo, but that the reason was that survivors were killing themselves on hook and DCing due to disinterest in playing against the overwhelming power of Onryo. they've been losing hard to Onryo, getting condemned so much. And after all of this, 6 months of not learning their lesson of having a tape. Then, when the second rework, third version of Onryo is presented in a new 2024 public test build, with only 3 killers being changed, and the Onryo changes still revolving around grabbing a tape to protect yourself, you'd think survivors would be grabbing tapes by now, right? From the TVs that hum and buzz loudly, that now have their auras glowing right through the walls, right? Right? No! Take a look at yourselves! Survivors, just grab a fucking tape! The devs are literally rewriting the code of the game to protect you against your complete and utter lack of self-preservation against Onryo. Developers, at some point, in the most PR cushioned way of course, you still need to stick to your guns. This is your second attempt at making Onryo, whose tapes make survivors completely immune to being killed, work. When are you going to tell the masses, hey, the actions needed to survive against this killer are not being picked up by the majority of survivor players? Just let people slowly improve. I mean, it's glacial improvement, apparently. But at some point, a survivor needs to think to themselves, man, this is tough. What's the counterplay here? And do something about it themselves, because it's a game where you need to think of solutions to challenges with that massive brain of yours. Waking up to read this developer update and hearing that survivors would get a stack of condemned and another, and another, and in about 20 seconds be more than halfway to full condemned, and not have a tape to create a safe zone from that condemned around their gen, was the most disheartening thing to read. I'm disappointed. I don't know how these changes are going to feel on Onryo, but I kind of think I know how they're going to go. But, you know, you can only be disappointed in something that you're invested in. If these changes feel as bad as I think they are, then there's going to be a change around here. I've been working in this Dead by Daylight space for a while with killers which are below the median for strength, because I felt bad about bringing good perks and a sweaty playstyle, and to me picking a slightly weaker killer was a bit of a counterbalance. But you know what? I'm not a comp player. I'm not impossible to escape from. Survivors get away from me plenty enough. And seeing all of this from my favourite comfy killer, I gotta tell you, right this second, I feel a lot less sympathetic to the survivors' cause.